Good morning, class. This is your instructor. My name is Miliha Beg, and this is the second lecture of a series of lectures that we're going to have. And I'm going to be talking a bit about what we studied in the last lecture, and that was pertaining to the definition of accounting. We further assumed that there are going to be some differences between financial accounting and cost accounting, and you are supposed to basically, all the students are to understand the key differences, because then that is what helps us to determine why we actually need cost accounting, because if already we have financial accounting, why would it be necessary? So one thing which is important is that it helps the management to make decisions. So it is that first of accounting. And then cost accounting has other key factors which differentiate it, because it's not time barred, in the sense that it is not constrained by time, or it's not limited by time to ascertain the values of the product. Hence the scope of the cost is basically that we deal with it in manufacturing concerns. It does not mean that the services sector is not going to be having it. Rather, it's more about the manufacturing concern being easier for the students and for the first time evaluators of this whole process, to understand what costing is about, especially because the service sector costing is not that easy to handle, because it's a bit convoluted. So I give an example of this university, because we have services sector, and for various universities, education sector, we as teachers are more like an asset to this organization. And you have to understand the key differences between asset, expense and expenditure before we further continue with the lecture. And the key difference is that an asset is basically a thing of value. So we are going to come across asset, and the outline which is more important is that we are going to be talking about the costing methodologies, and then how to calculate this, and then what is the optimum way of calculating cost. And you can also order quantities accordingly, because why we need cost is because we need it because we need to understand what is the lowest possible pricing strategy for developing a product, because you just don't need to market something. You also need to understand what is the minimum cost which is going to be very effective for you to earn profits. And then that comes to the second part, where we want to earn profits. So first is the costing methodology, then comes the pricing strategy, and then the how to earn profit. And then there's a decision making process. And so the subject is basically about planning and control. So we talk about budgeting, and budgeting is one of the crucial aspects that we also going to be studying in management accounting. But for professional designations such as this chartered accountancy, and whether we talk about in European countries or in North American region, the main focus is that we need to merge these two, cost accounting and management accounting, because one is dealing with evaluation of the product's cost, and the other deals with the decision making, whether this is the most appropriate choice. So coupled with that, it comes to within the ambit of same subject. So but for each state, we can actually divide it into two different domains, right? So one is the management accounting and the other is the cost accounting. Then we have to go through the classification process of cost. So what is basically classification? One of the things is that it has responsibility accounting. Okay, so this term is, before we study the classification, we should know that it helps us with responsibility accounting. And this basically deals with, we have to make every decision keeping in view what will be the influence or impact of the decision in the long run. So what is important? Now we have time reference here. So whatever decisions that we make have an impact over the long period, over the longer term, on the company's performance as a going concern. So an enterprise has to be very important, has to make some important decisions, and it's very important for it to hire accountants that have the knowledge of where the decisions are going to take them in the future. So then time reference is very important. And then there is an interplay of various costing factors. Okay, so there are costing factors. Now when I say interplay, it means then there are certain other domains which have to be taken care of. For instance, the commercial activity, Then we have to look at the allocation of expenses. Allocation of, first of all, the cost as per expenses. Then there is how much profit to earn. Profit to earn. So when we talk about classification, so I've already mentioned to you that it's very important that we talk about the manufacturing concern, because for service sector we have a different sort of inventory. Okay, it's not inventory, it is like akin to inventory, like we are giving you knowledge, giving students knowledge. So this knowledge is basically sort of like an inventory, and then that invites the students to come. So you are purchasing that expertise of the instructor to give you, disseminate information to you, because otherwise that would be very difficult for you to decipher anyway. So this means that for service sector, it is completely a different process. So that's why we segregate the costing of manufacturing concern from that of merchandising sector. Now merchandising is where they just purchase the product and they're going to sell it, okay? So I have mentioned this, that the book for my lecture is basically, it's Marz and Uzri, and this is planning and control. And what's important is that we have in this, this is chapter 3 actually, because the lecture, the previous lecture was from chapter 1, and this is going to be from chapter 2 and 3, which is going to be an amalgamation of both basically. So now, the fourth thing that we want to understand with commercial activity, with the manufacturing concern, okay? So what kind of commercial activity? Obviously then we have marketing expenses, we have customer related expenses, and then we have the cost of the product, whether we are going to allocate a particular cost to that particular product or not, right? And then there are joint costs, there are type of costs, okay? So now, then this is the strategy. How are you going to market your product? Strategy is to market that product. Market that product, okay? So now, first of all, before I go into detail of what is the commercial activity like, what are the type of expenses we have, and what is the costing process, you have to understand this classification. These are the classification procedures where we are going to be deciding where to put which expense, how to ascertain the profit, and how we're going to allocate the cost to that product and which industry to focus on. And then we have responsibility accounting, which is important, but then the planning phase, basically before this, there is a planning phase and there is a control phase, okay? So this is planning phase and a control phase. Okay, so who plans? That's important. Now planning is basically again done by different policymakers. So what is the main thing? To identify a problem. There are basically 5 steps to understand the planning and controlling phase, and I'm going to read that portion from the other book, which is Confident, but this is basically common to both the books. That you need to understand, then we can proceed further with the kind of expenses and the type of costing that we can do. to identify the problem first, right? This is pertaining to the allocation of cost as per expenses, okay? Because when we are doing classification, we already discussed as in the previous lecture that there could be some joint costs, there could be common costs. So how do you identify all this? And then there could be depreciation expenses. So what is depreciation? I'm just going to go over it again, but when you're allocating costs, then you have to find out the profit, and then there is an intermittent activity, which is the planning phase for all this activity. Okay, so you have to plan where to first of all open the factory. Then you have to plan and strategize how much to sell. So that means there is a strategy which is dependent upon two things. One is the volume. Prior to the planning phase is volume. This is volume sensitive analysis, because your activity could be very high or it could be very low. So if you have to cater to thousands of customers or you have to cater to millions of customers, so accordingly you would make your decisions in which place to allocate your business, more funds to that business, right? So for instance, I say a village. So would you be more inclined towards going to a village and putting up a factory, or towards a city center like Karachi or Islamabad, or maybe a business hub like Ontario in Canada, right? So in the United States, New York is the hub. So that means that we are to understand the target market. So we also have to allocate resources and acquire funds accordingly. And then we can make subjective decisions and objective decisions to how much cost to allocate to that particular product that we want to supply in the market. Now, as I say, you have to identify, as per the volume and whatever the issue is, identify the problem or the problem area or the issue. Whatever issue is at hand, whether to allocate funds towards a village or to allocate funds towards a city, which should be the target area, the target market, how many people to allocate this market for, and how many people to cater for, if we are to acquire the market share in that particular city or village area. And then, for instance, I give you an example of maybe like a food restaurant. So there you could be, it depends upon the taste of the consumers, that if you have something continental to offer, would you go to the village? You're not going to go to the village because you know that the taste of the people is such that they might not accept the product. So this is where you identify the issue. Okay, I know that I don't have sufficient funds, but I can't go to the village, then I have to go towards an urban area. So this is the identification of the problem. And then you have to not just to identify, but also to mark what are the possible solution areas. So you have to, other than identifying the problem, then discuss the whatever strategies and solutions there could be. So discuss, strategize, policy making, but policy making is the third step basically. So this is discuss, strategize. I've already mentioned the strategy here. So you're just strategizing and trying to find solution. So these are the things that come within the planning phase. And then you either incentivize and then follow with the policy making. So this is policy making stage through incentivizing, or this is incentivizing or policy making through analysis. So there are two things. Either there is analysis, or you can give incentive to maybe lower the cost, whether to increase the cost or to lower the cost. This just comes in the planning phase. Okay, so then you can just, maybe as you can see, there are discount offers being given in the market. So someone must have decided about giving discount. You go to the annual sales, and especially females, they are likely towards the clothes sales, garments. So now the policymakers have to decide which season would attract the maximum customers, and then they're going to incentivize the sale of their product, the purchase accordingly by either lowering the price or giving attractive discounts. So this is just one of the examples of planning phase. But once the action is actually taken, this is the control phase. After the planning phase is actually the action. So now there is another thing which is actually more important. These are the third or fourth steps, because once you make the policy, then you're going to be incentivizing. So once you incentivize, this is or analyze, this is partial control phase. So this comes partially in planning, because when you decide to incentivize, that will be the planning phase. But when you actually work towards the solution, work towards giving incentive or actually analyzing, or analyzing. So this action is the control phase. Because first of all, you have to decide whether you're going to analyze something. Does it require analysis? So if you want to have a look at the annual reports of your competitors, that is a decision that you first of all make, right? So this is the decision making process. But once you actually start analyzing and then evaluate, come up with a result. So this, working towards incentives, analyzing and evaluation. So this evaluating is control phase, and then this is the implementation, final implementation. Or you can say that the decision has been finalized and implemented. The prices have been reduced, the discounts have been given, whether to select a particular target market or not, that has also been decided. So this is the controlling phase, right? Now I'm just going to rub this and go towards the kind of products that we can have. Product costs by different. I'm going to be discussing various products, and for instance, we have Nestle, we have Coca-Cola, we have Palmolive, we have soap making factories. Okay, we have beauty products. So these are different products, and they have manufacturing. So this is a manufacturing side. If I talk about merchandising, I'll go to a superstore, a 7-Eleven, or Costco, or Metro, Zellers. All these have products that are ready to be purchased. They don't make them. So those companies that are basically making that product and then just selling them. So they are known as a merchandising company. So even they have purchases. The difference between manufacturing and merchandising is that the income statement for both will be slightly different. Okay. So one thing is that they have a cost of goods sold. Okay. This term is cost of goods sold that you must have already studied about. And it's just similar to purchases. Now purchase is when you are not manufacturing and you're just directly getting it from some source like a wholesale sector or area, and then you're going to sell it. But this is a purchase. But when you are actually manufacturing your purchases, then it is known as cost of goods sold. Okay, so that is the main difference between the income statements of both the sectors, the merchandising and the manufacturing concern. What you have previously done, generally the students, what they previously do is that they study the final accounts of the companies that are like loosely connected with the merchandising sector. So they just see the word purchases. So what is cost of goods sold? It has different areas. Like for instance, now the cost of goods sold would have direct material, I am not at this stage going to be calculating the cost of goods sold, but in the next lecture we will be doing a few numericals about cost of goods sold, how you are supposed to calculate that. But in this, you need to understand the constituents of cost of goods sold. So we have the direct material, okay, and we have direct labor, at least some of the components. Now a direct labor is concerned with hiring laborers and paying them their wages. So when I say direct labor, it is directly associated with making of the product. So naturally there comes to mind a thought that then if there is direct labor, then there can be an indirect labor. Term. There can be the term indirect labor. So yes, there are two terms. One is the direct labor and the other is indirect labor. And we would segregate them. First of all, the direct material and the direct laborers, those laborers. So if you go and visit, how to the manufacturing process of a factory, in a factory of a product, then you will see that there are certain, laborers that are, mixing certain things in a facility. For instance, if you're manufacturing a car, you'll be mixing paints and dyes, and then there'll be some who are trying to assemble and mold and weld the doors, steel or the iron doors, mixed with some alloys. So this is direct material, okay, for that particular product. But then there are certain people who would be polishing and cleaning things. And if you're talking about like a perishable good or an eatable, like for instance Lay's potato chips, then you'll see that there are certain people who will be involved with the packaging stuff. Then that would not be a direct labor. Again, that would not be direct labor, that would be indirect labor. So that means the difference between direct labor and indirect labor is that direct labor associates directly with the product. They're going to be handling the product. Okay? Handling as in shipping the product to the main facility, working on that. Then there is another group of laborers who are going to be actually working with a finished product. This is known as a finished product. So when the product is not formed and it's being worked upon, then that is handled by the direct labor. And if it is after being worked upon, given finishing touches or repaired, then that is indirect labor. Okay. There will be many examples in the numericals and questions, but first of all, these are the prime costs. Okay. Because they are primarily associated with the manufacturing phase. Then comes the indirect labor. Okay, what do you understand by this term direct material? Usually students get confused with this term. This is also known as raw material. Okay, so this, if you read in books, these two terms are the same. So direct material for PepsiCo company has Coke powder as direct material. Pepsi Cola, or maybe you can say for soap making process, you have sodium hydroxide as the raw material. So that raw material means that it is in raw form. It is not worked upon. Okay, so that is direct material. Now these are the prime costs. Okay, then we go towards the indirect labor, and we are going to segregate that. So indirect labor is indirect cost, okay, but still associated with the cost of the product. And these are all factory costs, remember this thing. These are all factory costs, and the indirect labor is associated with the maybe repair and maintenance, or there are other things, like for instance, have you ever visited a factory? If you go visit a factory, you see that there are certain defects in the product. Then the labor is going to the labor will see whether there is some, or supervising staff could also be there. They'll see if there's some problem or defect in the product where they should be, identifying that, and maybe, giving it either for repair, or it could have some other improvement, or it has to be, disposed of. So this decision is given by the indirect labor, and this is away or separate from the prime cost. So now after the indirect labor, so you can just write that these are the indirect costs and indirect labor, and then factory overhead. Okay. We have factory overhead. Now what is factory overhead? Basically it means we have some other costs that are aside from labor. When we say we hire labor, it means that we are hiring laborers and workforce. But factory overhead, but then there are two kinds of workforce, like I said, it's direct and indirect, and then factory overhead would have other costs like lighting, utility. So I'm going to be now putting it in bracket or Just simply also pronouncing it because there's a paucity of space here. So the first thing is utilities. Then there are common costs, like I said, depreciation is one cost. Now depreciation is basically an expense. As I said here, allocation of cost as per expenses. This term, now can you grasp this term? When I say allocation of cost as per expense, it means that within this costing there are certain expenses such as depreciation, but when this depreciation is associated with the factory cost, they are included in the cost of the product. However, if it's depreciation of that facility, which is not directly associated with the facility where the product is made, it could be maybe during traveling, maybe the vehicle in which it was traveling, it was worn or further it underwent some damage, then that cost will not be included in the cost of the product. Okay, so this difference you should understand. Only that which is still the factory premises, only that will be included in this. So now we have utilities, depreciation. By utilities I mean heating, lighting, okay, and other things. So we have sometimes very expensive heating, cooling also, okay, because expensive arrangements, because in foreign countries we have what, like a big large factory, and the space is like we have several cooling and heating conditions where the workers are working, and then there is a separate place where we have to cool the operating apparatus. So that means that there are different kind of utilities and the bills have to be paid accordingly. Then depreciation, and then there are taxes to be paid, right? And insurance. So I have, okay, now what kind of insurance? This insurance is actually either of the plant's safety, or it could be against loss of fire, and this could be a medical insurance of the workers. All this has to be included, not all the workers, not all the employees, but only those workers and employees that are associated with handling and the manufacturing process of this product. Okay? So the good or the commodity, whatever is being shaped, till the time it is within the premises, is coming within the insurance aspect. And if there is, let's suppose, shipment to some other country, then that insurance will also be included in this. But if it is inland transference, then perhaps it has to be agreed upon with terms between the buyer and the seller, whether they want CIF, which is actually carriage and freight. It has to be paid either by the shipper or by the person who is going to be accepting the shipment, right? Then those costs will be associated accordingly and will be given in the question to you as per the requirement of the question. So you have to deal with it accordingly. Then after the insurance, okay, this is supervisor's salary. Okay, then there are salaries. What kind of salaries? Not all salaries, because there's a difference between wage and supervisor's salary. Now supervisor's salary means basically that he is going to be looking at this is also one of the examples of common costs, like he's going to go have a reconnaissance of the conditions in which that particular product is being made. So for instance, he sees that the temperatures have not been taken care of. That is one of the problems, and the supervisor is going to report to the main high management, and then they're going to hire or fire the workers accordingly. Or they find out that some workers are not doing their duty properly and they're not giving full hours to during their shift to that manufacturing whole process or activity. Then this is the supervisor's job to see, first of all, that there are optimum conditions, and secondly, everyone is performing according to their job descriptions. And there are other conditions of the plant that could be beyond the human control. There could be some problem, some tripping of some equipment, other things like that. So supervisor could be hired on a monthly salary, or he could be on a daily time for which he's in that particular plant or facility. So okay, one thing could be that the supervisor is in a particular facility only to supervise one sort of product and not the other. For instance, Toyota manufacturing, Altus as well, It is also manufacturing Mark X and then Corolla. So now this supervisor could be for Corolla but not for Mark X. So all the Corollas will have the salary expense distributed uniformly in the cost of the product, which is only Corolla, right? So now then that also depends upon the model, right? Then this means that supervisor's salary, now there could be a couple of supervisors in this case. And then it is also again dependent upon the management's decision as to whether they want to hire the supervisor permanently on salary basis or not. Or it could be on the timely basis, as in per hour shift or per hour wage, or it could be like it's not exactly wage, but it's like per hour payment. Like you go to foreign countries like Canada, America, and UK, you have people being paid there on hourly basis. So this is just one of the things. This is supervisor salary. And then there's another thing, which is plant engineer. Okay. So now plant engineer. Now plant engineer is someone who will actually analyze and tell the quality assurance department. So you should know that there are various departments in the, okay, we are going to be discussing that in a while, but you should know that this quality assurance department, research and development department, and the plant engineer reports to them about any defects that the product might have, could have, and what are the ways to get out of that, right? So this is also all included in the indirect cost, because they're not exactly related with the manufacturing of the product. Now these all combined make the total manufacturing cost. Okay, this is known as the total manufacturing cost, and I can just write it here as total. This all is manufacturing cost, but still things are not completely finished as such. You could have the some unfinished work left from the previous year. So for instance, there were Toyotas being made, but they exceeded the actual demand. And they did not, if you ever order a car, you will know that there is a timeline which they have to follow, and then they give you a product after 3 months time, 2 months time, depending upon the demand rush. So that means that it is not immediately prepared, it is just left semi-prepared. And they will pay you according to your specifications. They're going to put whatever facility that you require from them, if you want some added thing in it, or they prepare it fresh for the person, because if you keep the product in go down in their this safe area where it's sort of like a hangar where they would have all these, for instance, airplanes, but do you really think that all these are actually made and put there? No. So just depending upon the order, they would just have them quickly assembled. So that means they're unfinished products. Not all are completely made, some of them are unfinished. So then that means that there could be the next year following up. Like I said, you have to understand the difference between financial accounting and cost accounting, that year-end reporting finishes in December. So if any product is left unfinished, will be reported as such as unfinished. In the next year, it will be included in the freshly made products. So you will, whatever manufacturing cost of this particular stream of product, you're going to be adding further. For instance, like I said, all the Toyota Corollas that are being manufactured in the facility. So you made some fresh stuff for 2020. So whatever was left and not completed in 2019, will also add that to complete all the, to finish or cater to the demand, right? So this will have the unfinished or work in progress or work in process. Now this work in process basically means that whatever was in process before in the previous year, in this year, this will also include, so for instance, some parts were missing in the car. The car doors were not attached. There were further other appendages that were, lying just open. So that will be, or maybe the engine was not completely fixed. So that would be work in process. And for instance, these were also having some things which were not attached to the car completely, like the doors were not attached, and they will have this stream from the last year and added with this. So if they were, like for instance, fresh 20 cars made in 2020, but the doors are still not attached because there are different, in conveyor belt, or there are huge conveyor belts where things go from one assembly line to another assembly line. There are different departments. So in one department, you will have the car as unfinished, and then from the previous year the stock was still there, we're going to add that stock. So now for instance 4 cars were left unfinished from the previous year, so 20 you made this year, okay? So now 20 plus 4 will be now 24 cars without those, right? So now this will be, now this is work in process opening, because this means that this opening is a terminology which means from the previous year 2019. Opening, that means that this is the closing of one year is opening of the other year. So it is December 31st, this is known as the yearly closing, and that is the closing product for 2019, but for 2020 it will be known as the opening product, okay? So that is why we say this is work in process opening, and this is the total manufacturing costs that are accounted for, right? Or these are incurred. In this case this is manufacturing costs incurred, incurred. These are any ambiguities till this point. So any student can raise their hands, or you just write down the question and then you put it in the comment box. Also after I upload this video. But other than that, you can also contact me and approach me just after this lecture. So your manufacturing costs have actually incurred at this point. Okay. Then you are going to be having this further as whatever has not been completed, and now you have 24 cars, 20 from this year and 4 last year. Okay, so now you could not sell all the cars because maybe when there was painting stage going on, you decided to leave out again 2 to 3 cars or 10 cars because you suddenly foresaw that the demand was much lower than actually anticipated in the beginning, right? So maybe you will again leave out some products that would be subtracted as work in process closing. This is work in process closing. By subtracting, it means that now we are not going to be selling this. I'll repeat this. First is you have 20 cars in the process of being made, and initially they didn't have the doors, so they were just partially finished, not completely finished. Then you had from the last year a couple of cars that had the same unfinished stuff within the body. That was that again they didn't have the car doors, and you add them together, and then when you are completing or you are trying to finish that product, you see that you don't want some of them, you just leave them aside for the next year. Just like in 2019 you left some, you will leave some this year as well. What is incurred? This could basically just remember that when we have the total manufacturing cost incurred, it could also be written like this, incurred here, and then accounted for just here. And just simply writing cost of goods manufactured, just for ease. Okay, just write like this, okay? I'm going to be shifting it here, the entire thing. So we have the revenue, okay, so the first thing is that we have direct material, we have direct labor, these are known as the prime costs. Then we had the indirect labor and factory overhead. Then we had them called as total manufacturing cost incurred. Okay, this is total manufacturing cost incurred. And we have work in process opening for the previous year. That was manufacturing costs accounted for. Then you subtract the work in process for this current year, which is known as closing. Okay, so closing basically means that in this current year, we are not going to be completing some of the goods. Then that is cost of goods manufactured. Now I'm going to be shifting to the income statement because this is the format which is complete till here. Now we have revenue, for instance, some value. And now we need to understand what is cost of goods sold. Initially, as I said, finished goods opening. Like I was writing it down here. So now this is actually finished goods. 2019 is going to be opening. Some value, okay? I'm just going to write it towards the end. I don't know if the camera will capture this, but you have to write it with an indent. Okay? So let me just rewrite this as finished goods opening for 2019. Certain value. Along with cost of goods manufactured, this value. Now what is this? This is actually this thing, which is what we computed. After this, we come to a figure which is cost of goods available for sale. COGAS. Okay? This is COGAS, which is cost of goods available for sale. And then we subtract the finished goods closing. That is of 2020. And you get cost of goods sold. Finished goods opening is the previous year's goods that were completed but not sold. You're going to add them. You're going to add whatever you freshly prepared. This is not fresh, this is fresh. This is now available for selling, but you're not selling completely all of it. Some of it will be left behind. You put it aside as closing inventory. This is also known as closing inventory, and it is whatever you get is cost of goods sold. So the key difference between cost of goods available for sale and cost of goods sold is that you make products that are probably 100, but you are not selling all of them. They are available to be sold. What you actually sell is perhaps 80 or 90, and you subtract what you didn't sell, and that is known as a closing figure. And remember, this is not the selling price, this is the cost. And you subtract this from the revenue, okay, and you get gross profit. The gross profit that you actually see in the income statements is this gross profit. Had it been a merchandising sector, this cost of goods manufactured would have been purchases. Okay? This term would be purchases. Okay? So you get confused when you see this term. Next time you won't be confused. Okay? So this is all about the terminologies. Now what kind of expenses are there? There are different types. I'm going to be discussing some of them while we do the formats, but one thing is there that there are two types. There's fixed and there are variable costs. Okay, so you want me to continue in one lecture? You don't want me to continue, okay? So the thing is, if you have any questions, you just may ask me, but I need to rub this, read for planning and control activities, whatever that we have done, okay? I just wrote the planning and control portions. There are 5 steps. If you, the key trick to remembering all this is that you go in a logical fashion. So you're going to be going ahead with the, okay, one thing I forgot again. So see, I told you that this is prime cost, material and labor. But there's something which is known as conversion cost. This is actually direct labor plus indirect labor plus factory overhead is your conversion cost. Okay, so you'll have a bit of this, and all this will be your conversion cost with factory overhead, indirect labor, and direct labor. Okay, so this will be conversion cost. So conversion cost will have the indirect plus the direct labor, right? Okay, so the lecture that is going to be uploaded will have probably some of the content removed due to being in excess. Okay, so let's just quickly go over this great book that we have. Okay, so see, as I said, that there are 5 steps. Decision making for planning and control. Okay, so now if you read that this is, can you see this? Okay, now you can see perhaps. You have to identify the problem and you have to obtain the information. And you make predictions about the future. Like I said, budgeting, you have to make predictions in advance. And whether you want to, this information, whether you want to open in village or you want to open in an urban area of the business, the target market. So you have to make a prediction about whether it will be sold and for how many people would that product be sold to, and whether they will have a particular taste, for instance for continental food, or whether you should have it in a particular location or not. Then you have to make decision by choosing alternatives, and then implementation is the last. This is the evaluation. And then this is, again, there's going to be we are going to be discussing some numericals in the next class, but I just wish that you would look at this. Okay, so if you can see this, I'll just read it out quickly. So we have this as identifying the problems, and then you have obtaining the information, you make the predictions, the decisions, and the alternatives. And the example that they're given is to increase advertising rates. So basically just giving discounts or increasing the rates. This is just the planning phase, the policy making phase. Controlling is actually whether you implement this decision to increase the rates. Okay? And you could also go in the opposite direction, where you could just decrease the rates, because advertising could have a positive impact on the people, and then negating that with increasing the rates could have an adverse effect. So this analysis and evaluation will continue. You evaluate this performance and learn. And then there's budgeting. I've already discussed this in the previous lecture. And then you have accounting systems. Okay. Now if you go to Barize, you see that they have very strong internal controls. When I talk about accounting systems, they are interchangeably, and this is you can say discussed interchangeably with this term internal control. It means that you have tighter checks and balances. So with accounting systems, like having softwares which will account for the debit and credit correctly. So all the inventories have been entered, and all those inventories are accounted for. So if someone tries to sell something to some relative at a cheaper rate, or he tries to steal something, that will be automatically catered in the system, that they have counted the inventory. Then if the money has not been received in lieu of it, so the accounts are not going to balance. So they can't really steal something. All the cloth has been already accounted for in the system. So this is by the invoicing. If you sell something, you make an invoice, give it to the customer. He's going to give you either money or through credit card payment, or he's going to give you a check. But since checks are not accepted, so these are the two things. Is you have to receive the payment, whatever invoice that you generate and the payments are matched together. They have to be the same. You can't just say that you invoice the person for 8,000, but you receive only 6,000. Okay? And then performance reports. This is, now there's a numerical that we're going to be discussing in the next lecture, and we're also going to be doing some practical work for the cost of goods sold. And the types of expenses, I'm going to go further into detail of semi-variable costs and variable costs, fixed cost, what is meant by cost object. Okay? So I thank you, and hopefully see you next week.
Yes.